I truly believe that, in your own life and in the collective, we just literally weave the visions. So
Yeah.
everything is a vision. Your own life is a vision that eventually will unfold, with obviously the grace of the divine. But it's the same goes for humanity. So
Right.
I think right now is a crucial moment of just coming together and putting together the vision.
I thought that the opposite of despair or like despair was hope. But really, I learned that it's prosperity, like prosperity.
Ooh, yeah.
I can always be with hope even if the world outside is like in chaos. I created SADE for President as a way to remind myself that I'm a sovereign being no matter who the president is. So it's S period, A period, D period, E period. And that stands for sovereign awareness and devotional embodiment. And though that's also been kind of like a war cry for myself, and just it's really empowering to share it with others as a message of we are the third party. Like if each person in their sovereign awareness decides to embody like their sovereignty, then it doesn't matter who the president is, because the people are really supposed to be in a place of sound mind where they can govern themselves. It's its own campaign, and it's campaign posters. But I used images of the actual artist SADE because, like I say, she has all hits, no misses. And that's, I can't say the same for the track record of the two,
Candidates.
like main candidates. Like y'all both got hella losses. And then I used some images from V for Vendetta because it's all about remember the 5th of November.
Tell me, do you know what day it is, Evie?
November the 4th.
Not anymore. Remember the 5th of November, the gunpowder, treason, and plot. I know of no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot.
A whole different perspective on the current election, because the things are heated right now. I have people on both sides. I have people on all three sides.
Like in your community.
Yeah. And also I think for the first time in the history where like the third side, which is, it literally it's like millions of people who are, speaking out against genocides all over the world that are happening right now. Like I see them like as a third side right now, and that's kind of like coming out. There's so much fear.
Right.
There's so much fear everywhere. We have one side screaming that, oh my gosh, they are like fascists. They're gonna be Nazis of the current time.
Right.
Whereas the other side is saying, well, you're the ones who are doing all the killing. So it's just it's a very surreal time to be alive. Now we're seeing all this online mentality seeping into our reality and creating something that wasn't like necessarily there before.
Like when people talk about capitalism, it's like an economic political system, right? So money and politics go together. When you're marketing a product or a service, a lot of marketers will use pain points on like how to target people's pain points to get them to buy something or to get them to like vote in a certain way. Yeah. And I think it's all unethical. Different campaign, like
illegal
ads, right? With just the different
fear
pain points.
the immigrant.
And target certain people based on their demographics or based on words that they search. It's hard to like stay out of fear because both sides are feer mongering, and I don't think they're ethically campaigning.
Dehumanizing each other and the groups, certain groups of people. We saw that with Haitians in Ohio.
They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat eat the cat.
On the opposite side, we see all these, campaigning about Trump supporters and how evil they are. And I've stayed in Boston, Wisconsin, where pretty much everyone supports Trump at this point.
Right.
And I've met the most wonderful, amazing people who love you just because, you're their neighbor. And I think that's what is so disheartening about this situation, is that they're dividing the neighbors. They're creating fear of a neighbor, no matter which side you're on at this point. If you consume and take that as a truth token, truth and information, you're literally starting to fear your own neighbors. And that is never a good idea on the same land. We can't be so much online that we lose track of what's real and what's not real. So our in-person interactions have never been more important.
What is fascism? People are throwing that around, but it's what is the basic of that? And it's just that, it's total control. If you claim to be a Democrat, but then you go to the Democratic National Convention, thousands of uncommitted voters, and they staged a protest in Chicago calling for an arms embargo, calling for time on the stage. And the Democrats are the ones that are fight for democracy, but then aren't allowing their own constituents to speak. And then they were met with violence from the police.
Or the
not allowed in
themselves.
Right.
This lady screaming at a child. At least the other side is admitting openly that they want to make America white again. Well, at least
which is impossible.
At least a lot of them are. I'm not saying all, but a lot of people
we need to get straight.
Who support that.
Y'all on stolen land. So let's get that clear.
Yes. Well,
any European, y'all are more than welcome to go back to Europe. Thank you. Goodbye.
We are all belong to this land now. We are all here, and my children are born here. Your children are born here. Their children are born here.
Right.
And if you believe in the spiritual realms, and if you believe in any kind of spirituality, which a lot of people claim that they do, you understand that all of this is the same energy. There is a seed of unity in there, and even I was telling you about this farewell address by George Washington.
It is of infinite moment that you should properly estimate the immense value of your national union to your collective and individual happiness, watching for its preservation with jealous anxiety, discountenancing whatever may suggest even a suspicion that it can in any event be abandoned, and indignantly frowning upon the first dawning of every attempt to alienate any portion of our country from the rest, or to enfeeble the sacred ties which now link together the various parts.
Don't get involved, entangled in the foreign affairs and the wars.
The passionate attachment of one nation for another produces a variety of evils. Sympathy for the favorite nation, facilitating the illusion of an imaginary common interest in cases where no real common interest exists, and infusing into one the enmities of the other, betrays the former into a participation in the quarrels and wars of the latter, without adequate inducement or justification.
When the two parties will create the division between the people, and that is where we are right now.
It agitates the community with ill-founded jealousies and false alarms, kindles the animosity of one part against another, foments occasionally riot and insurrection. It opens the doors to foreign influence and corruption.
I learned that a third party needs 5% of, I think it's the popular vote, in order to get federal funding in the next election. So to me, that's all I needed. I am the type that actually abstains from voting historically since I've been, of age. I voted one time, and that was for Obama's second term, but I was in a place in my life where I was basically totally ignorant to anything that had to do with politics. I just was like, yeah, keep another black man in the, keep a black man in the White House. Like, that's, which is, again, ignorant.
But that's what's happening right now. They're also saying, well,
the first woman president. Like, that's going to make her any less of a bureaucratic. Like, it's just like, you're just doing the same thing. You just have a different costume. I don't know. She's still a clown to me, so I'm just like, what? I don't know what the difference. Party, just to add one more little drop in the bucket of the 5%. And people always talk about like the 1% or like the 99%, but why don't we learn more about the 5% and how in every election, like, we can make the third party, or if the Green Party is what it is, or the People's Party, whatever it is.
Yeah.
If we just give more voices more room to be heard. And to me, that's worth it. Mm-hmm. Even when both sides are saying, oh, you're throwing away your vote.
Right?
Like,
and both
that's
of them,
literally
They're both
not true, for one. And it's literally, to me, that's political gaslighting.
Right.
Like, y'all are literally telling me, unless I vote for one of the two parties, that it just doesn't matter. So basically, I don't need to vote then if my vote doesn't matter.
Right. Well, and also it's like basically telling somebody that when they have any sort of vision or idea, right, to say, well, that's never gonna work.
Right.
And once you say that,
it's not gonna work for you.
Yeah.
For you.
But yeah, exactly.
But I think that's what brings back to me SADE for president, which is like, this is a timeless body of work because it's always going to be relevant. It doesn't matter if it's a presidential, congressional, you know what I'm saying, your local, your mayor, your city council people, whoever it is. Like, if every person that's voting is first in touch with their own sovereignty and like knowledge of self, that really it's the people that the government answers to. But we aren't even taught that we have that much power politically, financially, like anything. Mm-hmm. We're not even really taught about our rights. And so that's really what SADE for president is like, again, sovereign awareness. And then the devotional embodiment part is like being devoted to having that be your lifestyle, that you're always seeking out ways to affirm your sovereignty, whether that be like through the court system or through how you do choose to vote, how you choose to spend your money, what you choose to read, just like keeping that as like a spiritual practice in a way, right? That's what I think of when I think of devotion. And there's spirituality in all aspects of life too, even politics. And so if you are devotional in your embodiment of your sovereignty, then I just think that the world will be better, again, regardless of who is president, regardless of who's in power in any, they'd say the powers that be, but really now it's the powers that were. Yeah. Because people are waking up and it's just going to be more and more of us every day. Yeah. So even for people to be like, you're throwing your vote away. No, because it's just going to keep getting bigger. It's not like people are going to keep waking up and it's not going to go in the opposite direction. So it actually is worth it.
And everyone, and I think that's where for me, you have to vote consciously. Like, you're conscious, you have to be conscious of, and like that's the thing about lesser evil is like, we don't vote for evil. We should not be voting for evil. Right.
That's what people say. Pick your poison. And I'm like, I don't want to die.
No, right.
I'm not drinking no poison.
And also, 5% of voters.
Oh, yeah, we did the math.
It's 8 million people.
8 million.
And this year, we're going to have 40 million Gen Z voters. So
eligible. Yeah.
So I think that's a possibility. That's something that people can see. And honestly, like, the more democracies around the world have more parties than just two. Now, my conscience is not going to let me vote for either of these candidates because they're both terrible in very inhumane ways and things that they do or say. And, I have people who very wonderful people who support Trump, and they tell me, well, you know, you didn't feel that during his presidency or whatnot. But yeah, no, I did. I did feel the vibe change in this country, shift towards the minorities, towards, you know, we all know, like, the other side is screaming that, you know, a lot of these things are racist.
That print I made says not your minority,
right?
Because that's another thing we gotta get clear.
Yeah,
is that minority is a legal term, and it means of minor mind. Which I am not, and you aren't.
No.
So really the correct term is marginalized people on the margins, people that are like left out of like the white agenda, essentially. So like marginalized is like that's a lot of groups, or I should say the straight white agenda, but we ain't no minorities over here.
Right. Okay. No, that makes sense.
And also we're the global majority. Okay.
Right. You know, I'm always like pushing for like peace and unity, and and I think it's also because, and I think you have the same understanding too, just because you come from both peoples, right? Like your grandmother is German, right? So she's half German. So you have European ancestors, you have African ancestors, and indigenous
to the Americas,
right?
Yes, native.
So like I think people and a lot of people are here, you know. It's just that so sad. It's so sad that to me it feels like we're already traveling to stars and being together, and but maybe it's just an idealistic version of the world.
Well, we travel to every time I come visit you, I'm traveling to a star.
Right, to a star.
Y'all gotta watch the movie Wish, because it'll change your life.
I know. Did I just tell you about how?
Girl, you told me. Yes. Yeah. This is the message of my lifetime.
Well, and that's kind of how I see Elon Musk right now. It's just I used to really admire this guy, and you know, like and now I look at him and I'm like, yeah, you sold everyone that vision that you can bring humanity together to like the next level, but really all you're doing right now is just like picking part of humanity that you think is worth saving or worth taking.
Right.
Well, you're young, you don't know anything really, whereas it is my responsibility to only grant the wishes I am sure are good for Rosas.
So most of these wishes will never be granted?
Yet I still protect them like all the others.
Can't you just give them back instead?
Excuse me?
The wishes you're not going to grant, you could just give them back. Then, I don't know, the people can try to pursue them themselves? You know, if they're dangerous, then they can be stopped. But if they're not...
You've completely missed the point. People come here because they know they can't make their own dreams come true. The journey is too hard, it is too unfair. They give their wishes to me, willingly, and I make it so they forget their worries.
You make it so they forget the most beautiful part of themselves. And they don't know what they're missing. But you do. And now I do. It's not fair. My Saba is good. The people of Rosas are good. They deserve more than...
I decide what everyone deserves.
It's just what the king was doing. He was just picking the wishes that he thought are gonna be safe,
and that weren't threatening to his power.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, because he wouldn't grant the wish of the grandfather,
right?
Who just wanted to like bring people together through music,
right?
And then he was like, "No, he's gonna have an uprising." That was crazy.
Yes,
that was so crazy.
Well, yeah, and I think that the whole concept of that too is that it is the world that we live in right now. Is like only certain wishes are granted, just based on whoever decides, you know, whoever's in power, which is not meant to be this way. I think,
but that's also part of fascism, which I think that movie like illustrates in a very like simple way, but it's just basically like someone has total power because they've usurped it from the people, and then the people are propagandized and tricked into giving up their power while it's also being taken anyways. And then there's the young people that are like, this is wrong, I see what's happening, and then they like follow their spirit, and then it winds up like
Yeah.
causing that power that was to fall.
Artists are always they're prophets in history.
Like Nina Simone says, artists reflect the times.
Correct. So I think what you created in terms of like in saying like no matter who wins, like it does, like at this point when if somebody tells me you're throwing away your vote or this and so shouldn't win.
Thank you. Right. That's how we feel about both of them.
Right.
Period.
Right. So I think that at this point it doesn't really matter. But it's funny because both sides are saying, well, there's not going to be another election if this one wins.
Listen, this is why everybody needs to read Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower, because that's basically about the after effect and what the people are required to do because they get left by the elites. Mm-hmm. They like totally like just let them. It's just like martial law. Unless you live in a corporation city where you can't get out because they use voucher system instead of money. And so you don't have money outside of the corporation system.
Universal base income is coming. It's coming.
Yeah, and that's why people need to learn about cryptocurrency and blockchain, because the United States government has their hands in crypto. But when I read like corporation city, only a voucher system, it's basically modern slavery in the book, because they literally live there, work there, can't leave. And then unless you live there or you're one of the elites, you're like in a martial law community where they have to govern themselves. And I just think that's too why I've just always been like, we got to prepare and get ready to just keep meeting our own needs and to really embody our sovereignty. And show our children that it's possible, because when they're adults, we could have already established the third party. However many elections that is, until our children are of voting age.
Right, yes.
And that's at least, 2-3 elections? Right?
Yeah.
12 years?
If you don't subscribe to their propaganda and to their agendas and to fear,
right,
and just like follow love, literally follow love for your children, for your neighbors, for your community. Like, that's how it's supposed to be. And how it, how we can establish something other than what we currently have, even though people don't believe in it. But faith is, is a strong tool.
And the hope.
Yeah. So, what you said is not even like a conspiracy theory anymore. I was at a conference in LA last year where all these tech bros sit down and talk about the future of humanity, and they literally just discard humans like that, like under the pretense that they're trying to save the humans and help them, and we're gonna have all these goods and services, we're gonna have, the future is gonna be so, and it's just like, it was so dystopian in that moment, to be in that moment, because they're like, well, we're gonna just create this universal base income here, maybe she'll sit with you, and universal base income, and people are just gonna, we're gonna outsource all of this to AI, but like we still have people struggling from after the tech revolution, from the industrial revolution, misplaced people.
Right.
People are using alcohol, drugs, and whatever to fill themselves up, because they literally have nothing to do. Like, there's no purpose. And so now the tech revolution is going to take even more purpose from humans, but without investing in humans. And like billions of dollars are invested in machines right now. How much of that do you think is invested in human beings? Right. And their like sovereignty, their creative processes, just anything.
Housing.
And that's a very dystopian future, but hopefully we can turn these things around, and I think that's why we're here. High fives.
Yes.
High fives. Well, we're gonna be live tomorrow. Right. Sounds good. Peace.
First, the overture. Listen carefully. Can you hear it? Now the brass.
I can hear it.
Look outside, Bunny. They're playing music.
How did you do that?
Wait! Here comes the crescendo!